Hello, everybody. Welcome back. YouTube.com/Geek Aloud. This is Thursday night at 8:30 p.m. So it is the Gaming Enforcement Agency episode 113. Unky's decided to leave that second slot blank this evening. However, we are joined, as always, in the third slot by Bully. How you doing, Sheriff?
Oh, I'm doing very well. Very disappointed to miss last week because you touched on probably the two games that I've spent the last month playing, and maybe that's why Unky's missing. He's too enthralled with those ones and doesn't want to talk about anything new.
Every chance, mate. I tell you, it's just been hard to peel myself away from that obscure Expedition 33 to kick in to this week's games. But I can tell you we have two, and it is just two because of the aforementioned Expedition 33 that has me entirely engrossed currently. Two games followed by the most wanted game that will be coming out in the upcoming week. And then we go into the newsroom. Bully, how many newsroom doors have you ran down and extracted the goodness from within?
Oh, we're going to investigate 4 this evening, Troy.
I love it. And, of course, this is a YouTube live stream. Therefore, there is a live chat happening. Bully, are you prepared to go on patrol in that their YouTube chat and rip out the gold as it floats by us?
Oh, I certainly am. And just a reminder, jump in there and I'll interact while we're chatting and bring up whatever I can on the air, and we'll wrap up any that I miss at the back end of the show.
Perfect, mate. We're on duty. As we always do, let's get straight into games, interrogation, and deliberation. First up this evening, Bully, I'm going to bounce it up in the centre square for your good self, mate, for the tap off for AFL. What are we, 2-6, I believe, this year? 1 year off, it's throwing me a little bit, but, mate, square me up. What's going on?
Well, released, it was pretty quick turnaround because it only got sort of announced about a month ago. For those that aren't aware, AFL is the national sport in Australia. It's played around the country, the biggest sport in the country. Don't tell the NRL people that, they'll get upset. But it's, and probably just for those that don't know anything about it, it's a bit of a combination of, I don't know, soccer, NFL to some degree, and it's various concoctions of different sports. So
as I understand it, Bully, it's the toughest sport on the planet because we hit each other full force and there's zero padding. Is that right?
Zero padding. It's funny you mentioned that because I've watched a few clips on YouTube, etc., that have people from other countries watching some of the AFL marks and tackles and crashes and all the rest of it, and they wince and go, how do you do that? That's phenomenal. But as you mentioned, no pads. So, yeah, as I said, quick turnaround. It was only about a month ago that they announced that it was coming out. It dropped a week and a half ago. So I put a little bit of time into it. I was hesitant, always excited to see an AFL game because we don't get a lot of them, but really hesitant because I'm not sure if you remember back, AFL 23, which released a couple of years ago, on release was missing half the features that were promised. It was buggy. It was an absolute mess of a game to start with. To Big Ant's credit, who are the developers, they did put a lot of work and time and effort into it. And
shout out their Melbourne developers.
That's right. And they actually did get into a pretty good position after about 6 or 8 months that it was playable. It was a decent game in the end. So a bit of trepidation, but I still went out and got it day one. It's AFL game, as you said, an Aussie developer and producer, so you got to support the local lads. And pleasantly surprised, I have to say. There's a couple of little finicky sort of things that take a bit of getting used to, but for anyone that's seen AFL, it's to wrap up the complexities and because it's not just most games, it's just forward, whereas you play rugby, it's just going forward. It's soccer, it's going forward. Basketball, going forward. NFL, etc., etc. This sort of goes forwards, backwards, sideways, the whole gamut. Kicking, handballing. So to actually put it together into a game that is, basically in a playable state, I think any time they do that is quite an achievement. It's very similar in terms of the presentation to AFL 23. You're not going to boot it up and expect NBA 2K or MLB The Show or anything like that. It's not at that level. And I don't think anybody that's got out and wanted to look at this and play it is expecting anything at that sort of level. They just want it. And the reality is the audience isn't there in Australia that. You're not going to sell millions and millions of copies like you would the MLB The Show, etc. A couple of 100,000 copies is probably where you're at. Although I did notice it sold out in a few stores in Australia, much like AFL 23 did. It was hard to come by unless you'd sort of pre-ordered it. So hopefully they're doing pretty well. In terms of the gameplay itself, as I said, going into it with a bit of hesitation, it actually plays pretty well. Graphically, it looks, it's not the lifelike images you'd expect from a top shelf sports game, but they're pretty good. You can tell who you're looking at. It's got the actual commentators that commentate the AFL game on TV. They've got a handful of those in there. The presentation is pretty good for what it is. The gameplay itself is pretty good. You've got everything in there that you sort of want in terms of being able to take big marks and tackles and goals and all the rest of it. So I reckon overall, pretty impressed that they've got it out. And I've noticed pretty much every day since it's been released, or every second day, they've been working on patches and updating things. And so very similar to AFL 23 in that sort of perspective, that they're not sort of resting on it and saying, oh, okay, we'll see how it goes over a month and then we might tighten some things up. They're working on it basically on a daily basis to update things and make sure that it's running smoothly. So given the fact that we're not starting in as big a hole as we were with AFL 23, and it's just sort of tweaking things here and there, really excited to see where it can get to in another month or two. It's, as I said, in an entirely playable state. It's really quite fun to play at the moment, and just those little tweaks and stuff over the journey, I think will tighten it up and make it a really good experience.
First question I've got for you, Bully. Are you playing it on PS5, I assume?
Yeah, PS5, yep.
And how's it rocking on the Pro? Fast load times? How's that DualSense controller?
Yeah, you got a bit of a rumble in there. You don't really use the triggers in the game as such, other than to sort of turbo run or whatever you want to call it, boost. But
I would have assumed a specky was L2 R2 and pull it in and have the tension going. No.
Oh well, it's L2 plus the mark button, but it's kind of funny. That's one of the things that I've sort of struggled with. It's actually when the ball's coming in, the way that the players sort of set themselves up automatically, it makes it very difficult to actually do a specky and jump onto the shoulders of someone, because you're not getting that run up. You're sort of both sort of tussling at where the ball drop's going to be. So you don't really get that so much. Most of the game plays off the face buttons and the stick, but load time's pretty reasonable, I think, in terms of going from the menu into the pre-game sort of stuff itself. It's maybe 5 to 10 seconds depending on where you're at, and in between quarters, and then there's pretty much it's got a bit of a rundown with the stats and sort of stuff in between quarters and at half time, and then the end of a game, maybe same thing again. It's 5 or 10 seconds, and then you're back at the main screen and ready to go again. So overall, pretty good package, pretty good experience, I think.
Are they taking use of the speaker in the DualSense controller at all?
Maybe
the ref's whistle, to my mind, would be the perfect thing to be coming out of there.
I don't think so. I haven't noticed it, which probably means that it's not there. But maybe that's something they're looking at implementing down the track. But I don't know if I assume you haven't gone hands on with it. I don't know if you've got any interest in it at all, Troy.
No, I spend a lot of my time playing baseball when I can. So, no, I'm not the world's biggest AFL fan. Obviously, I played it growing up as a kid, and I covered it for, 15 years in broadcast media side of it. So it's a bit hard to separate myself from the TV production. But do you know, were you able to talk the whale into picking up a copy? And if so, have you guys played any multiplayer? How's that looking?
I haven't played any multiplayer, and I did because he asked me. I went out and picked it up the morning that it came out and loaded it up and had a couple of games before I had to tootle off to work. And he did message me and say, is it that much of an improvement? Is it worth it? I think my response was along the lines of, it doesn't matter whether I say it's a steaming pile or whether it's the best game ever made. You're going to go out and buy it anyway. So, and sure enough, I checked later in the day, and he's obviously bought it digitally, loaded it up, and played it. So
good on you, Unky Dunky. I love the spirit. I look forward to hearing in a future episode of G.E.A. how that multiplayer is. Bully, have you eyeballed the trophy list? How's that look? An achievable platinum?
I think it will be. It's just a bit, as with most sports games, there's a bit of a time sinking because you've got to play through a season. You've got to do various different things. There is a couple in there that on face value, you sort of look at it and you think, oh, that's not too bad. But I reckon it would be one of those ones that there's 2 or 3 trophies that if you were playing online with a friend that you could sort of set it up.
Yep.
Like one, for instance, is you need to take 5 speckies in a match, which, as I said, it's hard to do in normal
Against the
gameplay.
AI.
Yeah, but if you're playing with someone that you could sort of set it up. The other one is that you have to run 50 meters without being tackled, which again, the way the AI is set up, you can't. There's always going to be someone coming towards you, so it's very difficult to sort of do that. Whereas if you're playing with someone who just took control of the nearest defender and moved them out of your way, and then when the next one came along, they move out of the way, etc.
Moses style, part the Red Sea and just let you run up the guts, eh?
Yeah, pretty much. So I reckon it is pretty achievable, I would have thought. Apart from those little ones that you might need a little bit of help with, but it's probably something I'll work towards. I think I've sort of jumped into it 2 or 3 times over the last, in the last week. So I've probably got 3 or 4 sessions and played 2 or 3 games each session, and it'll be just one of those ones that you just tick away in the background and make slow progress on over a couple of weeks or a couple of months.
Nice one, mate. Final couple of questions from my side. First one is there a my player, my career style thing? Can you start a bloke in the VFL and work your way up, or?
There is a my career type thing. I don't know where it starts, whether you go straight into the AFL or whether you start in the lower leagues or whatever. But there's the pro team, which is very much like the Madden.
It's just the Cats, is it?
Yeah, you just play as Geelong, and that's the ultimate team.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
But that's basically like your Madden Ultimate Team, or your whatever they have in FC, whatever version they're up to, where you get the cards or you put your team together and do it that way. They've got a management mode which is actually quite in depth. So in terms of, that's what I'm playing through at the moment, is the management mode. So it's got the AFL, which is the men's, it's got the AFLW, which is the women's. Then it's got both competitions under that, and then it's got the junior competitions under that as well. So there's 6 teams that theoretically, I've just simmed all the lower level ones and just played that with the men's competition. But theoretically, you could play with the juniors up to the reserves or the B League, and then into the AFL. It's got training schedules that you have to do. It's got your travel schedules. So are you going to go into a cheap hotel and save your club money, or are you going to spend more and it helps the players out because they're more relaxed and they recover better,
right.
that sort of stuff. So there is actually a little bit into it, other than just sort of, let's just play the next game and sort of move along. So they've included more into each of the modes, which is good to see. Plus, there's the online mode as well. So
yeah.
We'll see where we go with that. I don't know. I only played a couple of games with AFL23 online, and it was one of those things. I think there was a bit of a hack where you could break a tackle, which made it virtually impossible to. If someone knew how to do that, it basically made it impossible to tackle them. So they could just run from one end of the ground to the other and kick a goal. You couldn't stop them.
Yeah, right.
And so you'd either play against players that knew how to do that, which didn't make it any fun at all. Or if you tried to play it properly and you found someone that was actually trying to do it properly, anytime you started winning by a couple of goals, they just rage quit on you, and you just sort of left there going, oh, okay. So interesting to see how it goes. As I said, I haven't played online yet, but it'll be interesting to see, because again, it's not there's not a massive audience for the game. So therefore there's a diminished online pool. So you probably, if you're looking at that, you'd probably want to get some friends that you're teeing it up with, rather than playing with some random that you don't know how or what they're going to do online. But yeah,
I guess a fair multiplayer tip, I'm assuming, this is pure speculation, but I would suspect that Friday night and Saturday night, directly after an AFL game, if you jumped into it and looked for a multiplayer game, that'd be the shortest amount of wait time you'd have the whole week. I think it'd be relatively common for gamers out there to watch the game on the Friday, Saturday night and then roll straight into a game themselves.
Yeah, quite possibly, or maybe even midway through the game, if you can see one team copying a shellacking, you might decide I've seen enough in that, and I'll try and change the outcome on AFL 26.
Fair enough. That brings me to my final question, mate. Do they have the live rosters and week by week games? Can you play the current week's Cats team against the current opponents at the correct ground, all that sort of stuff?
So the schedule's correct in that, like the fixture for the year is correct in who you're playing and what day you're playing and the stadiums you're playing at. The
live roster updates, ins and outs.
Yeah, so that's not there, but it does have. You can just bring players in or drop them as you see fit. You can pick your own team. When you're playing through the management mode, though, it does have injuries, which that's probably the one annoyance I've found with it is you basically, I reckon every game you play, 2 or 3 of your players get injured to some degree in every single game you play.
Mm-hmm.
So you're constantly having to take them out. They'll miss a couple of weeks. You're having to replace them. So it's probably, as much as players do get injuries in real life, it's probably just a bit over the top in how many you're getting in each game, and then therefore how many substitutions you're having to make, and then how many of those players are missing the following, game or couple of games after that, which can be a bit annoying. But again, hopefully that's something they sort of tighten up. But having said that, you can turn the injuries off as one of the settings anyway, so you can just sort of say, well, I don't want to do that and get rid of it.
Fair enough. Perfect. I know you're only a little way into it, and I know you're loath to do it, but I'd love for you to slap a score on it, and then we'll move on into game 2.
Oh, and take this with a grain of salt, because I'm taking this from the view of an AFL game, and it's not comparative to the top tier sports game. But
and that makes perfect sense.
But from what they presented for AFL, I would give it a solid 8 at the moment. And
nice.
There is room for improvement, no doubt. But as I said, plays really well. It's good fun to play. There's not the massive bugs that you had in the previous offering. So if you're a fan of the AFL, it's probably not a bad one to jump into.
And correct me if I'm wrong, this is going way out on a limb, but I believe I saw a 2-hour free trial for this very title on the PlayStation Network. I could be very wrong on that, but I think I saw it in the list earlier today. Well, you hunt down that bit of data. Let's head on into Doom, shall we? That's right, Doom, The Dark Ages. It came out officially today, PS5, which is the footage you're watching here. If you purchase the deluxe edition, you've had it for the previous 2 days to play it. So that install's available on the channel. Also available on the channel is the Xbox Series X version of the same game, which is available through Game Pass. I've obviously played Chapter 1, which I think was around 25 minutes on both consoles. And I've got to say, PlayStation 5, the best place to play this game. Sorry, Billy, did you happen to get the 2-hour trial data before I move on into Doom?
It doesn't look like there is one, so carry on.
I was completely incorrect. My apologies. So I got to say, Billy, this is the biggest, baddest Doom I've ever played. I've been a fan of this game since its inception, and this is by far the best one yet. They are handing out little gameplay tweaks, new mechanics and upgrades at a steady drip. It's enough time for me to get my slow old man mind and hands. I can just master the current technique, and then bang, they drop a new weapon in on you or set up a new thing. Should get on screen here, sorry. Doom and Doom 2 mentioned in the credits on the opening title screen. My little nose went off there. I'm willing to bet Doom 1 and Doom 2 remastered appear in this game as playable bonuses. It is a history of Doom to have previous titles available hidden somewhere in the game. So I think the title screens tip their hat to that one. I haven't read it anywhere. I'm just assuming that if they're going to list it in the legalese, it must be in there somewhere. I'm yet to come across it myself. But the Rail Spike Shredder's the second game you get. Oh, the weapon, excuse me. The first one, obviously, you get is the shotgun. They've absolutely nailed the sound of the shotgun. And obviously, the big new draw this time is the shield. So you've got an L2, an actual block and shield. And then, of course, it also turns into a weapon quite quickly. It starts off a little bit Captain America-esque, where you're just kind of bouncing it off dudes. But then at the start of mission 2, you go on in and attach a big chainsaw-like blade to the end of it, get it revving, and then you can throw it through dudes, rip them in half, or it gets stuck in the bigger bosses and just sits there and grinds out their guts, and you run up and give them a little 1-2 punch or drop some rail spikes in them. It is a heck of a lot of fun. Look at this lighting, Bully, the storm that's going. And, okay, don't look too closely because this is where I fail a platforming challenge, believe it or not. But check this out, Bully. You're just on the beachhead here, and there's massive bosses up in the background. And then surely it's Doom, so get bigger, get badder. Rip the bloke who's passed away off the whatever this is, the beachhead weapon, and then you just lay into the big old boss that you've been, he's been just dancing in the background for the whole first level, and then finally, end of the first level, you get on the Gatling gun, I'm going to call it, and just lay into him proper style. It's just from a narrative standpoint, the narrative, I'll get to that for a second, but from a environmental storytelling, for the whole mission, they're sort of alluding to this big guy in the background. You see him off in the distance. And then, of course, they finish the mission perfectly and he's running straight towards you and just lay into him. It's absolutely beautiful. But that brings me back to the point of narrative. What the hell is going on in these cutscenes? I have no idea. They may as well be speaking a different language. I don't know what's going on with the Doomslayer. He's in some sort of prison. And then suddenly you're down on the planet and you're playing as him and you're friends with the humans, but then you're back up in the prison and you're captured by the bad guys. And I don't know why they keep releasing him and why I keep fighting with the humans and then you're back in prison. The narrative makes no sense to me in the cutscenes. Well, during the levels, though, it's amazing. Go, mate.
I was going to say, to be fair, is the narrative in Doom game ever made any sense?
Well, normally it's just your Doom guy lay the place to waste, but then they're like, oh, let's give him a cutscene, and here you are up, and the aliens are torturing you, and you're like, what? And then they deploy you to the planet, and you're playing with your friends again. I'm not sure what they're trying to tell. That being said, I'm only 3 missions down, but each mission gets bigger and badder. You can see he's got the cape on there. You're about to see as he walks up to the device and adds the chain to the outside of the shield. This is, of course, the start of mission 2. Check out these biomes, Billy. The first one was like a
medieval setting.
The first one was like a cliffside rainy night, and then this second one's like you're in Saudi Arabia or something in the middle of the desert. There's bombs going off everywhere, and it's all desert. And the poor mate, old there's lost his leg. Here you go. You add the old bloody chain to the side of your shield, and you're off to the races. I love the speed at which the gameplay goes in this. It's absolutely perfect. It's just, non-stop action for a good 3-4 minutes, and then they slow it down, they add or modify a gameplay mechanic, and then it's another 3 or 4 minutes of flat, heart-pounding action. I absolutely love it. The real negative on this game is not on the game at all. It's on me and my old man hands. Jeez, does this game hurt the old man fingers, Bully? You're running around holding the shield up, and that's just constantly pulling L2, and I'm playing it on the PS5, so it's the DualSense. And those adaptive triggers, yes, they feel fantastic, but geez, do they tire my fingers out. I absolutely love it. Unky's going to love this. I know he was questioning whether he should purchase it or not. It looks and runs and loads better. It is phenomenal on the PlayStation 5 over the Xbox Series X. If you've got the choice, no question, play it on the PS5. Bully, for the first time ever, an Xbox Series X game is using the speaker in the DualSense. They've heard my complaints for the last, 4 or 5 games they've released. No action on the DualSense controller. Happy to say this is the first game that's, no worries. Here you go. Use the speaker, and it sounds a treat. I love it. The immersion is there. I'm up and about. I love this game. This is really something special. It's no Cloud Obscura Expedition 33. From a narrative standpoint, I'm actually following that game and enjoying it and want to get back and understand the character development. But if I'm looking for a quick bit of action, I've got to tell you, Doom is it, mate. I'm not sure what's your history with Doom, and is any of this... Oh, sorry, just before I hand it over, there's gold now. You pick up gold in the levels, and then just here on the left, you run on over and you can upgrade your armor, your weapons, or your shield. Just, they've got some, it's very minor, but it's a bit of surface level RPG elements into how you progress. And obviously there's still secrets and everything in the levels that you can unlock. Bully, thoughts, feelings?
I suppose you asked my history with Doom, and it's, I don't know where you were back in the day, Troy. So for a lot of people that I know that have been playing, like I've been playing games for the better part of 40 years.
Yep.
When the 3D shooter, and I use the term loosely 3D shooter because Doom was on the 2D plane when it first came out on PC back in the early 90s. But the
late 80s, thank you very much. I was playing it on DOS.
Well, the other one that came out at the same time was obviously Wolfenstein 3D. So
yes, it was. My confusing was Doom 90s. Doom might have been 91 now that you say that. Was Wolfenstein 89. My fault. Sorry.
But that was, for me, that I grew up with, you were either a Doom player or you were a Wolfenstein player. And I love Wolfenstein I
played them both and loved them both. I was non-biased back then.
But that was my introduction as it would have been for a lot of people, was the 3D shooter. Was Wolfenstein, and that just the setting and all that sort of, I really jive with it. I'm a bit of a history buff. I love that sort of setting and all the rest of it. And then when Doom came out, and it was, it was set on Mars, and it was dark, and it was, you had the monsters as opposed to, battling, real life characters, all the rest of it.
Nazis?
The Nazi. It never really jived with me to start with. And it's through the years, 30 odd plus years later, it's never really jived me. I know there's been a lot of love for the reincarnation or the sort of redoing of Doom since 2016 with that release, and then the subsequent one that came out a couple of years later. And I put a little bit of time into Doom 2016, but it didn't really. Again, it was just sort of not my type of setting. The gameplay was good. Don't get me wrong. The guns and all that was great, but it was just a setting that wasn't really compelling for me. And it's sort of interesting with this one. It's probably one that I'll have a look at on Game Pass first, because from what I've seen, it's a lot slow, and it's not a lot slower, but it is slower pace compared to Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal.
I've got a fix for that because I accidentally did it. I turned on always like auto sprint.
Yep.
And my God, I almost had a seizure. The game moves so quick. If you're always sprinting, you're in for business. Sorry, mate, back to you.
No, it's all good. So maybe that's something for me, that it's that little bit of slower pace, a bit more maybe tactical about how you're doing the shooting, as opposed to just everything being thrown at you at once, and it's just almost like a bullet hell style scenario. Plus the setting, there's some of the levels. It's funny you say that with the comparison between the two levels, because that first level it's almost on the cliff face on the side of a castle, and that intrigues me. And then you flick to that next level where it was almost like a futuristic city type, almost something at a Halo.
That's fair.
And you sort of look at that, and then I go, as soon as I see that, I go, no, that doesn't interest me at all.
Grappling hook example on screen there. Sorry, there's only one in the footage. I just need to point it out. Back to you.
No, that's all right. So it's one of those things that there's parts of it that intrigue me, and there's other parts that I just go, I just know it's not for me.
That's fair.
So it's probably one of those ones. I'll load it up on Game Pass, have a bit of a play around with it, much like I did with the original or Doom 2016. When I say the original Doom, but the original in this series, and see how it goes. But it's not. I don't think that it's probably high on the list at the moment, and especially as I said at the start, I was disappointed to miss out on last week's show with the games that you guys talked about. But that's sort of where I'm at the moment. Like Claire Obscure is ruling my life at the moment, and any spare time that I've got in between that, I'm throwing at Days Gone, which I've finished the campaign or finished the story in that, and I'm just doing a bit of mop up for the platinum on that.
Two fantastic games, and good on you for playing them.
And I'm just trying to think what the other one I was playing in there is. There's another one I've been playing in there. Forza. Going back to a couple of Forza races. So between those three games, which are quite time sync sort of games that, and different in each way they play, that's probably enough to keep me going for the time being.
Absolutely fair.
It'll be put on the back burner. There's a couple of games coming out in the next month or so. I've got to get back and finish Death Stranding before number 2 comes out in about 6 weeks' time. So as intrigued as I am to have a look at it, I just sort of sit here and go, I've just got too much on the plate at the moment, and as I said, it might be put on the back burner for when there's a bit of downtime.
Fair enough, mate. I've got some more bait here for you. This is Starter Level 3. As we discussed earlier, massive boss guys, and you take them down with the Gatling gun earlier. But look at this bully. You start Level 3, bang, Doom guy suits up in a giant mech. So you become an absolute behemoth mech, and you start running through those cities that you were on the ground for earlier, and you're just kicking down bridges and taking on those big guys. They just find another gear. I'm only 3 level. I've finished this level. This is level 3. But check it out, bully. Look at the size of this mech. I didn't think the game could get any better after level 1 and 2, but when they drop me in a mech and I'm starting to punch holes in dudes and send them across the city, I'm like, hello, boys. It's on for young and old.
Are they trying to make it a Titanfall style game?
It honestly got there. I wasn't expecting it at all because I was off. I was on media blackout. Look at this. Here we are. We're back in Saudi Arabia, I'm going to call it. And you're just dropping down, and now tanks are like little ants by your feet, and you're running through the things. How you doing, boys? I'm just going to punch the side of the building off here. And you're off to the race. It's so mind-blowing. This is another one of those examples where I'm like, this game's top-notch. It can't get any better than, How about we put you in a giant mech and you can run and step on everyone that was a challenge for you in the first 2 levels? This game, I don't know how many more tricks it's got up its sleeve. I've been on Media Blackout, but I've got to say I've never been happier for going on Media Blackout. The only thing I really knew about it was Doom Slayer, had a cape and a shield, and they delivered on that immediately, and now I'm finding out there's massive mechs in it, and I get to punch bejesus out of these blokes. They have just absolutely nailed this game. This is so enjoyable, and because I'm a bit silly sometimes, I love their waypoint systems. I could see some people dinking it for, it's a bit waypointy, but you can go into the HUD, into the menu, and disable that option on the HUD. Me, I love a good breadcrumb trail, so I'm pleased it's there. But, Bully, you've seen a fair bit of this footage now. I've got to ask you a question. Pop quiz hotshot. What's my field of view on all this footage?
Oh, bubble, fish eyes, no doubt.
But does it look like it's fish eye? Doesn't, you can't tell, can you?
Oh, sure.
It's 120 degrees field of view. So it is that massive fisheye that offended you and Unky so very much in Adamfall. But in this game,
it still offends me.
Because Doom's always so up in your face. I'm really loving the 120 degrees field of view on this. I feel like I can just breathe a little bit more, which in a game this fast pace is actually a really welcome change of pace. Check out that. I just love punching these guys in half. This game is phenomenal. If you've got Game Pass, absolutely check it out. Off the top of my head, what was it? 78 gigabytes, something like this, to check out. And I think it's money well spent. But if you've got both consoles, I say don't even check it out on Game Pass. Just go and immediately buy it on PlayStation 5. Looks best, runs best, plays best there. The speakers included, so that's worth the price of admission alone. I'm absolutely loving this release. Bethesda, ID Software, they've smashed it out the park. Tip of the cap to Xbox for finally employing that DualSense speaker. When are we going to get one on Xbox, Bully?
Well, is there going to be a next Xbox? We'll see. Nope. But it's funny that they're sort of coming around to that, because I think we've seen recently with a lot of the Xbox games is they're actually selling better on PlayStation than they were on Xbox. So I'm not surprised that a lot of the developers there are actually angling towards what's the best experience we give on PlayStation, because I think the general consensus is from most people that I sort of have listened to and spoken to is that if there is another Xbox console, it's more than likely going to be the last console as we know it from Xbox, and they're going to move more into the games developer publisher sort of world, which they're pretty much in that space already as it is, and if they're going in that direction, they really need to take advantage of what each of the other systems have sort of got in place. So it's really not surprising that they've gone down that path. I suppose the only surprise is it took them that long.
It is. Oh, sorry. The only final point I'll say on this before we move on into the most wanted is the Indiana Jones wasn't required that you had an Xbox account, but by linking your Xbox account, it sunk the trophies, and I was a bit upset about that. And then what was the most? You just said it, Forza. Thank you, Forza. You could connect it, and you didn't.
Well, you had to connect it.
Sorry, thank you. That's what I was looking for. You had to connect it, and you didn't pop any trophies. But I noticed some of the it was the road counter, like roads traveled, and I think it was bonus billboards smashed.
Yes,
carried over, but everything else had been reset, which was just a weird way they implemented it. But this game, I've played heaps of Bethesda games, but I'll note that this game uses your Bethesda ID, so I didn't have to enter one lick of username, password, nothing like that. It had already signed me in, but I've played a bunch of Bethesda games already on the PlayStation, so I assume it's just copied my account login details over from those other titles. But I've seen Zero that I can confirm, because I played on PS5 first, then I played on Xbox. Neither console did have anything about cross-progression or cross-save. They're totally two different titles as far as the back end goes on that far. But that's it. That is it for Doom. I say 2 thumbs up. Go and get it immediately if you've got any interest in the Doom Slayer, because this is his finest outing yet. Bully, should we move on to the most wanted?
Let's have a look.
The most wanted this week, Bully?
Wanted. So probably a little bit late. It's one of those things. I think it's come out digitally yesterday, but I've been looking at the physical version because that's where I always look. The Precinct, Troy. I'm not sure. This is. Did you ever play The Fugitive? or see the future.
No, is that based on the Harrison Ford film? I'm a
not
big
in the
fan of that
slightest.
film.
Not in the slightest.
No, well then I know nothing.
It was just, you can see on the screen there. It's a sort of top down throwback to GTA. So the fugitive, you were playing as a framed felon that escapes from prison, and you got to move through the world to basically eventually prove your innocence. But in the throes of doing that, you're breaking into people's houses, stealing stuff, hocking it for money, etc., etc. So this is set, it's made by the same developers in Fallen Tree Games. It's in the same world, but it's on the opposite side. So this time you're playing as the police. I haven't played it yet. I know Anki has, and he shared a few thoughts that it's very much a mash-up combination of clearly from a camera setting and perspective. It's the original GTA style games. It's got a bit of LA Noir thrown in there, that you're playing the good guys for a change. And for me, I think it's something that we don't see a lot of, is this side of the wall, I suppose. You're normally playing as the bad guy and you're trying to escape the police. So it's an interesting dynamic that we don't really see. I'm really interested. It looks graphically, it looks interesting. It's not something you really see a lot of as well. For me, it's something I've sort of kept my eye on for the last couple of months in the lead up. It looks interesting. It looks different, and I'm interested to get hands on when I do get the physical version early next week.
Nice. Sorry, is that a physical release in the Australian stores, or is this something you've had to import?
No, exclusive to JB Hi-Fi, I think, in Australia.
Oh, JB, you've done it again.
JB, you could get it. I don't think EB's carrying it, and I couldn't see it on Amazon last time I checked, but that was a couple of weeks ago. So I've had to go through JB. I have got the physical version. It is I think it's 60 Australian, so I'd imagine that equates to 30 odd US dollars. So on the cheaper end of things, but again, certainly really looking forward to it. I know you're a big fan of the LA Noir games and the different perspective that sort of provides. So hopefully that's the same sort of thing. I don't know whether you've sort of caught up on this or had a look too much into it, or
not at all, mate.
Have any interest in it?
Yeah, I absolutely, from what you've said, I knew nothing of this game until you put it in the rundown for this evening show. I looked at the trailer and my ears perked up, but then after hearing your description there, I'm very keen to go hands-on with it. I did look at it in the store earlier. You may have said this already, and I apologise if I'm repeating it, but I think, was it $32 or $36 on the Australian PSN for the digital, I believe? And
the digital, I'm not sure of. I know the physical, as I said, was 60 Australian. Just give me a sec where you carry on and I'll find out for you.
Yes, no worries, mate. But yeah, I love the look of it. Very much to your point. You know I love narratives, especially when they're taken side streets. And very much to your point, there's not a whole lot of video games where you play from the police officer's side. So there's obviously incredible fertile ground there for great narrative story experiences. So hopefully they've got something really unique and interesting to say about that side of the fight. Sorry, mate. How did you go? Did you get the price there?
40 Australian. So I assume that's 20, 25 US dollary dues.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the current state of the tariffs. Oh. And on the physical collector's edition that you're getting, mate, any bonuses on there? Any sort of accoutrement in your package? I'd be very interested to know. The other question I've got while you're typing is, do we know how big it is? So I'm just looking at the gameplay and I'd throw my hat in the ring and say I'd peg it around the 25 gig mark, but I've got absolutely no idea. I could be way off base.
Not sure at all, to be honest with you. I haven't had a look at it, but I think the Fugitive was probably about that 15 to 25-ish mark in terms of storage space. So not a massive game in terms of storage space, but it doesn't the sort of it's quite detailed in the graphics, but it's not overly graphically intensive, if that sort of makes sense. So I'd imagine this would be similar, that it wouldn't take up a lot of space. But if you're sort of interested, I think you can get the Fugitive for pretty cheap these days. But I really enjoyed that game as a sort of as I said, a bit of a throwback to old school sort of PS1 era type games.
Absolutely. I love what I'm saying there. The only way I'd part with my hard-earned cash to pick up the Fugitive is
I can tell you right now, American Fugitive is $6, 80% off in the store at the moment. So $6 Australian, so probably about 3 to 4
$2.50
US. It's about 30 cents US.
Yeah.
Um,
The only way I'd part with my hard-earned cash for the Fugitive is if you can guarantee me that at some point the main character says, "I didn't kill my wife," and then somebody else says, "I don't care."
well, you get framed for killing your dad, so maybe he does. I don't know. But it's one of those things. If you're mildly interested in this, and I didn't realize it was on sale, but jump in, have a look at American Fugitive. Very much the same sort of gameplay and graphical settings that you find. If you enjoy that, I think you will enjoy this. In terms of what you get with the physical version, so you get the game with a steel case, you get a digital soundtrack, and you get a physical map of the city that you
love me a physical map
that you're patrolling. So a couple of little extras there to get it on the physical side of things.
Beautiful, mate. I love it. Shall we move on in? Shall we kick in a newsroom door?
Kick it in.
I got to say, mate, I give you top marks. This is your best, most wanted yet. Perfect for the theme. All right, let's kick in a newsroom door. Whom bully has the right to remain newsworthy this week?
Well, we've spoken about Doom, the Dark Ages. We've spoken about the install size, and you did mention that they're up on the channel there, the installs for both the PS5 and the Xbox Series. The physical version of the game, though, drawing some ire, much in the same manner that Indiana Jones was when that was released. So to only 20-odd, I think, gigabytes of the actual game was on the disc. The rest was a download required. Pretty much the same for Doom, the Dark Ages. So there's only an 85. There is minimal data. I don't have the exact number, but you are required for an 85 gig download on top of the data off the disc. So what that's actually led to is a lot of people cancelling their physical versions, including collector's editions of the game. And it seems to be, I know it's probably not big in your sphere, Troy, but certainly for me and for anyone that loves collecting physical, this is becoming a more and more common occurrence. That it's basically what we're saying, what we have seen with Nintendo and what they're planning with the Switch 2. It's basically just an access. You put the card or the disc in, and it just gives you access to the game digitally, basically. So it's almost like a download code. So from my perspective, really, really annoying. Like if you had to put it on 2 discs and I pay an extra $5, like that's what you're appealing to as a collector of physical media. So it's not, and quite often, to get it physically, you're paying more anyway than what you are on the store, because we all know the way the industry is going. They're pushing the digital because it's less overheads, it's easy to deliver, it's quicker. It's
when they delist it, they can cover their tracks.
Correct. So there's all that sort of stuff. There's still a fairly big physical collector's market out there, albeit diminishing, but it's still there. And I would have thought, as I said, I'm more than happy to pay an extra couple of bucks to throw an extra disc in there, and I'll pay for that. It doesn't really bother me. And it's the same with, even older games that you're sort of looking at, that you look at some of the especially PlayStation, you look at some of the sales they've got for digital stuff on the PlayStation store that you can get for dollars on the cents. Whereas if you go and try and get the physical version, even years down the track, you're still paying quite a lot more, in some cases 400 or 500% more for the physical version.
Can I get a price check on you if I'm not going to distract you too much?
For
50-cent blood on the sand. What's that physical edition going for?
Oh, if you can still get them in the stores, I suppose. But I suppose, look, you've got to. That's where I think you've got to understand your audience. That the people that are buying physical really aren't. They don't want it in this fashion. They don't want part of a game on a disc that you then have to download down the track. They're people that want to grow their collections. They're people that want to, like I do. I still go back on the shelf and pull out an old Super Nintendo or a Sega Master System or NES game and pop it in the system from time to time. That doesn't need patches. It doesn't need downloads. It just, you throw it in and it works. And I suppose that's where I sort of look at it. And it'd be interesting to see how it looks in that same comparative time. Like if you look back to the SNES days, we're talking 30 years ago. Well, 30 years from now, so in the 2050s, am I going to be able to download or throw the disc in for Doom and be able to download the required data to be able to play it, or am I going to put a disc in and it goes, well, the server's down. What are we going to do with this? You can't do anything with it. So, really, really annoying maneuver from my point of view as to the path they're going down. They need to understand their audience, and as you can see, and as I said at the top, there's people that are actually cancelling the physical orders based on the fact that you're not providing the game. We all understand that they're going to patch it down the track and those things are going to have to be downloaded, but the game in and of itself on the shipped variety should be wholly on a disc.
I agree with you 100%, mate. And if I had unlimited resources, every single video game purchase of mine would still be physical. I love the physical collection. I love all my little books and hats and, behind the scenes. Yep. All that business, games and stuff. Like one of my prized possessions in video gaming land, I've still got the launch copy day one of Cyberpunk 2077 over there. And I love the fact that that's a full game. Like it was 2 Blu-rays, but that's still version 1.0 burn on the disc. Like that game is an absolute train wreck. And at any point, I can install it with the console offline and still enjoy that train wreck. Like it's those sort of moments that they're just eliminating with this digital future. So even though, yes, the vast majority of my game purchases these days are digital, that's just a limitation of resources, time to get to the shops and shelf space. But, eliminate those things and I would still be 100% physical. I love the physical collecting element of it. And I'm completely with you, mate. They should have the whole shebang version 1 launch day. The whole game should be playable off the disc. Obviously, multiplayer games aside, that's unachievable. But if it's a single player game, 100%, the whole data to version 1.0 should be on the disc. That'd be a mandate if I was Lord Ruler of the video game world.
Well, hopefully. And again, I think the latest data that I sort of saw was it's over 80% of digital now. So I understand that you're appealing to a lesser and lesser market as each year passes. But as I said, the market's still there. I'll pay extra for it. Like. And the people that are buying these, a lot of them aren't just buying the standard, base edition of the game. They're wanting collector's edition or deluxe editions that have, like we discussed with the precinct before, that comes out with a steelbook and a map and a soundtrack, and you have all this sort of stuff that goes with it. So that's what people that are in the physical market are really looking for, is something that they can hold on to. It's going to sit there for the next 20 or 30 years and still be playable. So I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
That market's still there. Please appeal to it.
I agree. And even though the video game industry is growing as a whole, so that hardcore audience is shrinking comparatively, but it is that very hardcore audience that'll pay $200, $300, $400 for a physical edition with all the extras. That audience in and of itself is not shrinking. Those gamers are still there and they're still willing to fork over the big bucks. So I think it's crazy that they're not catering to them more. They should absolutely include all the data on the disc and gimme those. I love it when they include a map, like a physical map that you can just roll out on the couch next to you or whatever. All that good stuff. Like, where is it? I'm not going to grab it, but I've got from it was Diablo 3 but I've got like a full demon skull with a USB stick in it. Like that was just a silly collector's thing. It's my favorite USB stick. You pull it out, you plug it in, it just looks like one of the gems from Diablo on a closed red when it's in your computer. It's amazing. But it's all those little bits that I absolutely love. They're some of my favorite gaming memories.
And the thing is, they're your hardcore audience as well, because they're the ones that are spending $300-$400 on these collector's editions that are so invested in your product.
Yep.
And your franchise or your series, or if it's a new one, they're so excited about what's coming that they're prepared to drop $300 or $400. So that's you're talking in some cases, up to 10 times the price of the actual game.
Yeah,
they're prepared to throw that out for what in a lot of cases are trinkets.
Yeah,
on top of the base game. So you've got that player base that's still prepared to throw that money. And as you said, that's not diminishing. Like a lot, you have a look at any collector's edition that goes on sale. I know certainly in Australia, they're gone within, in some cases minutes, and
as soon as that pre-order goes live, you better be there or you miss it.
And in some cases, worst case scenario, they're gone in an hour or two, and then you're stuck with, the eBay scalpers. So
Yeah,
the market's still there. Like,
absolutely.
just cater to it.
Yeah, I think Microsoft just have their financial department just looking at the biggest piece of the pie. They're forgetting about the cream sitting atop. Maybe the smallest slice, but that's where the cream is, fellas. Cater to it. All right, Billy, should we move on
Carry
to
on.
news story 2? Here we go. Tell me things.
News story 2. So we've got news comes that there's a new PS5 Pro update coming shortly that will improve the PSSR upscaling algorithm. So
Is this the second one?
I think this is they've had some tweaks on it. I think this is the first major one. So
Okay.
reportedly the next iteration of it. So for those unaware, it's basically an upscaling method, AI method within the console itself that takes primarily the PS4 games from the it might be 30 frames a second at 1080p up to 4K 60 or 4K 120, whatever it is. So apparently the next the next iteration, I should say, of the PSSR is trying to take games up to 4K 120 or 8K 60 on the PS5 Pro. So
have you ever, I've never once in my life, other than in stores, do you know of anyone ever actually owning an 8K monitor?
No, I think the only time I've ever seen it is like on your Digital Foundry comparisons
or
and
you
reviews
walk in the
and
front
stuff.
door of JB Hi-Fi and there's the big mother. But that's it. That's the only time I've seen one.
At $20,000. Yeah. No. So the short answer is no. And I think for most people, and I actually had a bit of a look. Not that I was in the market for paying 8K, but when I bought the new TV at the start of the year, I'll just say, I'll have a look just to see, just to educate myself as to what the difference is. And the reality is, the difference between 4K and 8K is, for the human eye, is basically non-existent. You can't really tell, especially for someone that wears glasses like me and you, Troy. It's you pretty much can't tell what the difference between. Especially, you might be able to see it in a static image, but you certainly can't see it in a fast-flowing, moving image like we play with video games. So I think it's probably one of those sort of gimmicky things. But to get a 4K 120 FPS for upscaling on non-PS5 Pro games on the PS5 plus potentially PS4 games as well, certainly that's appealing, and it's great to see that they're not sort of resting on their laurels in terms of having the most powerful console machine as it stands. They're trying to develop it and push it and reach that next level as well. So always good for the consumer, which is not always Sony's forte, but certainly they're working away trying to improve the pro appeal, I guess.
Do they have a date on the release of this patch?
No, not at the moment. But I would imagine, given that generally from what I've seen is once you start hearing these rumors come out, it's generally because they're in an alpha or beta test. And that sort of generally would lean into about a 4 to 6 week lead time before it becomes public. So
how excited will you be to fire up Red Dead Redemption Remaster PS4 edition on the Pro and be getting 120 4K out of it?
Well, it's funny. I picked that up not long ago, and I was cracking into it. So, yeah, I don't know. It's still, to be honest, it still looks good for a 15-year-old game.
Well, you talked it up, 2-3 episodes ago, and I've been pounding a few hours into it, and I've bloody lost myself in that Wild West world again. I'm loving myself silly with it, but the idea of it coming through 120 at 4K, sign me up.
Actually, you know what's funny though is because I think I spoke about it a couple of episodes ago as well, was going back and playing Death Stranding again, and the slow, methodic nature of the game, and just enjoying the world for what it is, I suppose, and then having played that, and then going back to Red Dead, going to Days Gone, those sort of big open worlds that aren't there's not necessarily action-packed stuff happening all the time. But I've actually really enjoyed just, Red Dead, for instance, as you said, just jumping on a horse and going, I'm going to go over here. And, days gone by, I would have sat there and gone, where's the fast travel? Where's the fast travel? Where I just sort of go, I'm quite happy to sit here for the next 3 or 4 minutes and just cruise around the.
Could it be something about our age, maybe, Billy? Are we getting to a point where we can just meander happily?
Well, it's funny. As much as I enjoy it, at the same time, I go, I've got very limited time to actually play games. So I'm sort of torn between Do I just enjoy that slow, methodic horse ride, or do I just go, I need to fast travel because I've got to get this done, and then I've got a million other things to do?
Yeah, no, I know that pressure as well, mate. That's what can I say? Tuck the young ones in and some late night gaming sessions. Woo, that's the business. All right, mate. I love it. Can't wait for the PSSR update to be released. News Story 3 has been released. What is it, mate?
Well, Story 3. So I know you spoke last week that GTA 6 has been delayed till May next year, although I did read something before that maybe Rockstar's trying a power move. He's going to ghost drop it in a couple of weeks.
Oh, that'd be exciting. And that sounds like complete rumor and scuttlebutt and tinfoil cap business to me. But
no doubt. No doubt. But how would that be for a power move? Just go, all right, here you go.
That'd be pretty epic.
1st of June, here you go, have at it. Because it doesn't matter when they drop it, how they drop it, it's going to slaughter.
Well,
so
what was the date? It's probably written here somewhere. Was it the 26th of May next year?
Yeah, 26th of May next
Imagine
year.
if they drop it in 11 days. And we just got the year wrong. It was the 26th of May this year, fellas. Here you go.
Yeah, and that's where the scuttlebutt and the tinfoil hat's coming from, is that they've just gone, we'll put people off, but we'll shadow drop it in a week and a half's time.
Please, Billy, stealth drop it. I can't stand people saying shadow drop. It doesn't make any goddamn sense. It's a stealth drop.
Well, it came out of the shadows and they dropped it.
No, because it lands in the shadows and you never see it. It's a stealth drop because you don't see it coming, and then bang, the whole landscape's changed.
No, well, it's hiding in the shadows until someone finds it, and then it goes crazy. Anyway.
No. I disagree with you fundamentally. Sorry, mate. I've totally derailed this.
So in lieu of the stealth drop in a couple of weeks. There is a rumor that GTA 4 Remastered is going to be dropping potentially as a holdover for later in the year. So
that'd be nice.
Not only that, but we know that Max Payne 1 and 2 are being redone.
Yep.
There's also scuttlebutt that a port of Max Payne 3 is being done for current gen consoles, and it'll be released as a trilogy to sort of tide us over for that sort of period of time until we get to GTA 6.
I tell you, mate,
unless they do drop it in 2 weeks' time.
That'd be nice if they did. About a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, I fired up Max Payne 3 on the Xbox Series X backwards compatibility. So it's had a little bit of hoopla on it. And that game still holds up, as you'd expect. But, geez, I'd forgotten how good it was. That nightclub scene where you dive out the windows and you pick, 30 people on the dance floor and like 6 bad guys, and you're just trying to pick up the headshots on your slow-mo dive down. It's amazing. That game's still great. I love it. Give me nervous breakdown.
And the only thing to add on to this is so Tez 2 is the insider / leaker. I'll give him credit for this one. So recently Rockstar shut down some mods that were put into GTA 4
PC release, I assume,
on the PC release, and so the flow-on effect from that is that they're shutting down current mods or people working on mods in anticipation that a remake or port is going to be released towards the end of the year. So we'll wait and see if that does occur. I don't know what your thoughts were on GTA 4. I thought it was okay.
I loved it.
Oh, see, I thought it was one of the for me, it was one of the weaker GTA entries, to be honest.
Could you not like Nico Bellic?
Because he's a pain in the ass.
Oh.
And no, I don't want to go bowling.
No, I am such an old school Rockstar fan, mate. Well, my microphone's gone for a walk. I love them all. I have I love Nico Bellic and his story and New York City and woo!
Oh, I don't know. One.
Now wait, I know you never finished GTA 5. Did you finish GTA 4?
Oh, jeez, it's. When did it come out? 2008, or so I reckon it's 16 years since I've played it. I never went back to it. I played it when it came out. It was okay for what it was.
I don't want to give you a story,
GTA, but
spoiler. But if you finish GTA 4, that
I don't think I'm ever going to go back to it.
But that last little arc, let's call it 8, I want to say, missions. And I don't even want to say what happens. I don't even want to allude to it, but there's a film about it, totally unrelated. I think they pulled from the film to make the story work. But holy moly, that game was brilliant the whole way along, and then such a crescendo to end on. Woo, that game's worth playing the, 40, 50 odd hours just to get to those final handful of missions.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, God, it finishes strong.
Maybe if they redo it, I'll have another look. But it was just one of those things. Maybe it was just where I was at the time. I'm not sure, but for whatever reason, it just didn't take me. So,
all right, trivia question. Then we
we'll
can move
see.
on. What is the name of the ship that Nico Bellic pulls into Liberty City on? It's written on the side of the ship.
Oh, you got me.
It's Australian reference. No, give up. Platypus. He drives in on the platypus ship. All right, sorry, I'm a little bit of a GTA nerd, I admit it. All right, mate, is that it for this one? I love it. Give me all the Rockstar games remastered immediately, if possible. Give me some of that PSSR business, and let's go. Speaking of let's go to Story 4, Willie.
Story 4. So we've spoken about it a couple of times during the show. Claire Obscure Expedition 33. We're both massive fans of it. You guys spent a bit of time on it last week. So the developers came out during the week and sort of said where they're sitting at the moment with it in terms of DLC or further development. So I don't know whether it's a good thing, bad thing. Unky is probably the better one to speak to out of the three of us. On towards the end of Act 2, which is there's 3 acts, so I'm about a third of the way through the game. You've not finished Act 1. But in terms of DLC coming for the game, the developers have come out already and said that we're not actively working on it. That's not something we're looking at, and we're more focused on providing ongoing patches and updates for polishing and all the rest of it going forward. I don't think, to be brutally honest with you, from the 25, 30 hour or 25 odd hours I've put into it, I don't think it needs much polishing. It's pretty bloody good.
No, the game is top notch. I reckon those guys should. And I didn't agree with Helldivers 2 devs when they did it because they released a live service game. But if you remember, those blokes took 6 weeks or 2 months off. The whole development team just said see you later and shut down the studio for a couple of months and enjoyed the end of crunch time. This game, they've knocked it out of the park. They're obviously going to be sitting there at the Game of the Awards, hopefully rubbing their fingers for a Game of the Year, certainly a nom, maybe the win. I reckon these blokes should just take a couple of months off, fellas. You've earned it. You've smacked it out of the park. Just go relax somewhere for a bit, I reckon. They've bloody nailed it.
Oh, I agree with you. I have not run into one bug, issue, not one gripe where you've... I should. There is one gripe. Oh. Can you put a mini-map in... I don't know whether you guys spoke about this last week. I need a mini-map.
It was briefly touched on, yeah.
That is my only gripe in this game. I love everything else about it.
Can I counter you on that?
Just give me a mini-map. I know why they didn't put one in because they said,
I haven't heard them say why.
Oh, their explanation was it's about discovery and the unknown, and not just like you said before with Doom, not providing. Well, this is just the way to the next bit. We want you to explore it and find out what different bits. If you go down the past, does it give you treasure, or do you find a side boss, or do you find something down here or whatever it is? So I understand their philosophy behind it to a degree, but at a certain point, it just when you're trying to navigate your way around some of those areas, I don't know about you, but I found it on the odd occasion. I've sort of had to sit there and go, "Where am I? Hang on a sec. I've got to turn myself around here and find out where I am." That's been my one issue. So put a map in, and this is Game of the Year, hands down. I don't even need to see this next 6 months worth of games.
Oh, unless they stealth drop bloody G.E.A. 6 on you, mate.
Even if they stealth drop it.
Oh, shots fired. Look out. Now, I agree with you originally when playing this game, Claire Obscura Expedition 33. I was like, where's my mini-map? Give me a mini-map. But now I'm, 4 or 5 hours in, absolutely loving it. I realise now it's somewhat like if you've got the cutscene playing in the subtitles, I stopped watching all the fantastic artwork and, deliveries by the actors, and I'm just reading the words, and I miss everything. I realise now minimaps do the same thing for me. If there was a minimap on screen, I wouldn't be looking at the world and experiencing the environment. I'd be looking at least 50% of the time at the minimap, and I'm left, right, up, down, whatever. So without it being there, and originally I was against it, but now I've gotten used to the idea, and I'm realizing they've actually opened my eyes up a bit wider to the environment, somewhat like a field of view slider.
I agree with you to a point, but I've only ever really found that with and it's funny we're talking about GTA. Like you're going from point to point in GTA, and you're constantly looking at the mini map for your GPS style directions. I think Forza does it really well because it's on the road in front of you. You don't have to focus off to the side of the screen. You can just focus on what's in front of you, and you can just follow. I think when you play, when you know, I'm a massive RPG fan and have been for the better part of 4 decades. When it gets to the point when you're playing these games, and this is my opinion only, but when you're playing these games, the initial part of getting into a new area and exploring on your own is great. And then it gets to a point where if you're a completionist or you're wanting to explore every little, nook and cranny of a certain map or a certain area that you're in, you have to have that mini map there, because there's quite often times, I'll go into an area and the mini map will be off to the side, and I'll just ignore it and explore around. But it gets to a point where you're going, I really want to find everything that this area's got to offer. I need that map to see where I have gone and haven't gone. So that's again.
How about this for a pitch? What if they included the minimap only on New Game Plus? So you've already experienced the story once, going to New Game Plus, bang, minimap unlocked.
I've got no issue with that, or just make it optional. Let me go into the.
But what if they made you earn it, Billy?
Okay, but but see, that's the thing, and we're probably getting off topic a little bit here. But I hate
what us never.
I can't as a I'm not going to say hardcore, as a casual trophy hunter. I hate nothing more in games that make me play the game twice. It annoys the absolute bejesus out of me.
That's fair.
I'm more than happy to experience everything the game's got. Go and make me do this side thing, make me fight every optional boss, but no issue with doing all that. The minute you make me play that game a second time for some arbitrary reason, I just check out. I go, I'm not playing, like, especially RPGs. Like, how can you expect me to sit there for 100 hours and then go and play the game for 100 hours just to get 2 trophies to get a platinum? It annoys the absolute bejesus out of me. So it'd be that same sort of boat where I'm going, I'm quite happy to play your game. I want to experience everything that you've done. I think it's an amazingly developed game. Let me experience what you've produced, what you've made, what you've created. Let me experience that.
Mm-hmm.
And the best way to do that is to let me know where I haven't been. Like,
that's fair.
You've made it. You've made these little tunnels and these side bits and optional bosses and all this. So you've put the effort and the energy into making all of this stuff. Let me experience it.
Yeah, no, it's solid argument, mate. I can't counter you on that. Great one. The only question I've got, and I'm just scratching my memory, was it Spider-Man 1 by Insomniac Games that gave you, there was to get the platinum, you had to play New Game Plus, and then they had a second thing you had to do in New Game Plus, but it wasn't complete the story. It was, you could do it in 10 minutes. I thought that was genius. I think it was Spider-Man 1. It was definitely one of the Sony first parties. Maybe it was Miles Morales. Yeah. But I thought that was a really good way of doing it, because there's one trophy and it's like, oh, I've got to play New Game Plus. All right, I'll fire it up, bang, the trophy pops. Then 10 minutes later, you do one other thing and then platinum's mine.
But see, even that, like, I don't like if your game's 10, 15 hours long and you make me play it a second time, but it's substantially different, or there's extras in there, I don't mind that.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're talking about 100-hour RPG, like, that's just mind-boggling.
Offensive? Would you go so far as to call it offensive?
100%. In fact, I don't know if you got the button ready, Troy.
I've got the button ready, mate.
If you've got the button ready, I'm going to throw this out, the 4-point infringement.
Yes, 4-point infringement notice.
4-point infringement notice for any developer that makes me play a 100-hour RPG for a second time, put 200 hours into a game just to get 1 or 2 trophies to get a platinum. You can take your infringement notice and you can walk. Because I've had a gut full of your nonsense.
That's it. You heard it from the sheriff himself. Job's done. That is it for the news. Bully, we are now entering the third and final segment of the show, mate. What's been happening in that there YouTube chat? If I set it up correctly and the bloody thing worked this evening.
Well, I don't know, because I've seen a couple of people in watching, and I haven't seen any other comments other than D-Man74, which I haven't seen before. But when we were talking about AFL, he was talking about the camera angle, which I understand can be a bit of frustration in there, and he's still trying to work out what the best camera angle settings are. I sort of let him know, and for anyone else out there that's listening, I just went the default camera setting. I found that that's okay. I've tried end to end. I've tried, zoomed far out. It's too far out. You can't tell what's going on. You zoom too far in. You can't.
Maybe you need the 8K monitor to blow it up a bit bigger. Mate.
Maybe I need the fish. Maybe I need the fisheye view.
120 degrees field of view. That's
yeah, you zoom it in too far. You can't see where you're kicking it to, and all that sort of stuff. So I just left it at the default there. So that's where I'm sort of at. But D-Man, thanks for jumping into the chat. First time for you there. So hopefully you enjoyed our chat about our AFL 26.
Good work, D-Man. Thanks for jumping in the chat.
Other than that, that's where we sit. So I don't know. Again, I know we've had some problems with the chat in recent weeks, so it may have dropped out again, unfortunately.
It's not like me to hit a wrong button. All right, that'll be us off duty. Bully, sir, fantastic work this evening, holding us up in that their third slot, buddy. Great stuff.
Pleasure as always, my friend.
Excellent. Viewers, as we already said, bunch of installs on the channel, including 2 today for Doom on the Xbox Series X and PS5. There'll be more installs throughout the week. And, of course, we'll be back next Thursday for another episode of G.E.A. Bully, what else could you do with Geek Aloud?
Like and subscribe, yeah.